We are live again. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We'll just carry on from where we left off. So we were having a deep discussion about KL Rahul. Carry on. We were with Amish.
I've lost my train of thought. Wait 1 second. I was just saying, right, that I think KL Rahul's strike rate, which is, as you guys have put, a good reflection in 2020, compares to the England players at the top of the order about the brand of cricket. So, and I'm not saying there, because Rab, you made a good point. He has Milan, the best bats in the world, blah, 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 blah. But based on the best measure in 2020s, he's ticking the boxes and he's exceeding that compared to the Indian players. The rest of the Indian
players, with you. I agree with you. An informed KL Rahul is pure class. Right?
And I recognize that right now he's unfortunately. By the way, have you got many people on the live? I can't see how many we've got.
There's enough people watching. Okay. Carry
on. We say that he's not one of the best two, though, is he? He's not better than Rohit or VK at the top of the order, is he? Really?
I don't know. For 2020, Rohit Sharma is pretty ordinary in comparison. But it's a hard one.
India level.
I had a look at the Rohit Sharma's performances, yeah, and I'm a big fan of Rohit Sharma because he can, like you said, destruct. But the problem with him is he has a great knock every 3-4 innings. Like if you look at his he has a destructive knock, and that keeps him in the team. And we kind of rely on him to fire and keep up that, because when he goes hard and has that big innings, his strike rate goes from 130 to 180, 200, just like that. And if that doesn't happen, then the pressure's on the rest of the batsmen. So it's like we don't know which Rohit Sharma we're going to get.
So are you dropping Rohit? I mean, how are you fitting KL in?
Cool. So I guess KL right now doesn't make my World Cup team. He makes a squad, but based on form, he doesn't make my team. If he has a brilliant IPL, then I think we can't ignore that, and he has to come back in. And with Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma opening, right? It's true. You have your two top batsmen batting as long as you can, etc., etc. And Rohit Sharma, the longer he bats, the more destructive he will be. And Virat Kohli speaks for himself.
Let me word it differently, right? Forget form for the time being. The World Cup's still 6 months away. A lot can happen, right? From the guys that played this series, if come October, everyone is on top form, right? So KL is as best as KL can be, Rohit is as best as Rohit can be, etc. Who would your batting lineup be?
Okay, so unpopular opinion. A very unpopular opinion I'm going to give. I would bring him in for Bunt. I know that's Bunt has become our India's darling, which I totally understand because based on the performance he's had. But honestly, in 2020, what has he done to keep the likes of Ishan Kishan out and an informed KL Rahul? What is his role in the team? And I'm sure this is going to get a lot of controversy, but what's he done in 2020? What's his role?
The only thing I'll say about Bunt is that, and I agree, there's still not a defined role, but how can there be a defined role when they're trying to fix the opening at the moment, and then they're trying to fix number 3, and then they're trying to fix number 4, and Pandya's not played in a year.
So in an ideal world, but in an ideal world, what would you say is Bunt's role? Because his strike rate doesn't reflect his game. He's a floater to do what though? Do you want him to play the anchor role? Because that's pretty much what he's doing. The number of dot balls, he hits 2-3 quick boundaries, but then he's had 7-8 dot balls.
To be fair, I think England actually, they had quite good plans outside off stump to Bunt. So I think they actually bowled all right to him. He hit a few good shots. But I don't think this is it. We're talking about a guy who's probably never played. The last 6 months has been the best of his whole career across formats, Test matches specifically. So
I agree.
I think, and I remember Jin said this years ago to me, that if you can go from Test matches and you can play that level of performance, I mean, at the hardest level of performances to win back-to-back series with match-winning knocks, then T20 should be a walk in the park. And I think this is all about up here, and it's all about the team management, because that's what they fixed it with Bunt in the Test matches. They gave him a role.
So, if because Varun just made a comment, right? If KL has a brilliant IPL, would you bring him in? And if so, who would you bring him in for?
See,
why not anybody? Why not anybody? Why could anybody
I'll put
have
another dimension into it, right? So you're gonna replace Bunt with KL theoretically, right? So,
well, Jin, you agreed with that yesterday. That was also something you came up with.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, England, right? This series struggled in the middle order for one reason, right? They had too many left-handers, right? And India were bowling cutters to all the left-handers, right? And they got found out in a way. So if we don't have Pant, right? If we don't have Shikhar Dhawan, we don't have no left-handers in our top six, which, you know, the thing that Pant gives is he gives Kohli the ability to put him in at 4, 5, 6. You know, he's a big time.
But can you not say Shreyas Iyer and Hardik Pandya are also floaters?
Yeah,
I guess, do we talk about Ishan Kishan in this conversation?
See, the thing with Shreyas Iyer is he's had a great series, right? And he will be at the World Cup.
100%.
However, if you're an opposition skipper, right? Who do you fear more? Do you fear Bunt more, or do you fear a Shreyas Iyer more? Like, who can take the game away from you?
Understood, but it's a results-based business. Hence why KL Rahul was dropped. And Iyer has shown. I'm so impressed with Iyer this series.
Amazing.
I've always backed him, but the roles the nature of his innings, he's in the first game, that stable knock, building his innings up. I think the second last game, he got that quick 30, 40 odd with a 200 strike rate. Like, he's done fantastic. And he can play from cricketing shots with not as much risk as one would expect. He can play at a very good strike rate too.
Well, you guys have mentioned some of the new guys who have come into the team along the way, with obviously KL Rahul being under so much pressure is obviously because you've had these new guys come in. So let's talk about some of those new guys who have made it into the team. Obviously, we finally got the debut of Surya Kumar Yadav, who obviously we've been screaming and shouting about for so long that this guy should be in the team. We also got, as you mentioned, Ishan Kishan, which is obviously why you're talking about Rishabh Pant and his place and whether we could fit all these guys in. Rahul Chahar came into the team as well. Basically, we turned into Mumbai Indians, it seems, for a few games. So let's talk about first the main guy who's come into the team, who looks like might be our cemented number 3 now, and that's Surya Kumar Yadav. Rav, what did you make of Sky's performance in these T20 series?
Absolutely nothing short of sensational. I thought he was a complete breath of fresh air. I think he was a player that, for somebody to come in and Jofra Archer's bowling 90-mile-an-hour bounces, and with that reputation as well, as somebody who can hit you on the head, who could do anything, for you to go and do that and to show the team, more importantly, the fearless attitude. And Virat said this after the series. He goes, we need to maintain the fearlessness. And I think he was the one who showed that the most. And having watched the highlights of yesterday's game, the way he played Rashid as well, when he came back, down the ground first ball, inside out second ball, and then third ball through mid-wicket. Just absolute textbook cricket, low risk shots, high percentage, and really he's playing orthodox shots. He's not, he holds his shape lovely when he hits through the line as well. So I just thought he was so good to watch. Another thing is he's an opening option as well. He's open for Mumbai Indians potentially. So you could even think of that as well. So I think he was the find of the series, amongst others that we're going to talk about as well.
You know what? I really, really hope that his, like you mentioned that Kohli said as well, I want that fearless attitude to stay, because when you're coming in, I can imagine the senior players in the team saying, go enjoy yourself, play your natural game, etc., etc., without that level of pressure and expectation. And both Surya Kumar and Ishan Kishan flourished in that. Like they really took England to the cleaners and destroyed by playing their natural game. And that is what we were missing. So I recognize the value of these young players coming in and their mindset. I just hope it sustains for the World Cup. There
was one point, actually, I saw a question just now that popped up about Siraj in ODIs, and actually it made me think of how India have got this talent pool, right? And they've got across formats. You've got Shardul, who seems to be playing everything. What I would say is we need to be really careful about not picking every player for every format. So Siraj for me is a perfect example of someone who in red ball cricket has been fantastic. RCB in the past, I've not seen him do brilliantly, for example. So I just think we need to be really careful about when we have certain players. Some of them are maybe more impactful in Test match cricket. Bhuvi, for example, who's come back, we've not even spoken about how brilliant he was as well. So there's vintage players coming back as well.
Just another point to add on what some of the youngers like Sky. Like, he was really unlucky. Both times he was out after a destructive knock. He was pretty unlucky to lose his wicket. The second, the game yesterday, I think the catch from Jordan deserves a bit of a shout out because that was absolutely brilliant. Like,
it's had enough shout outs. Thank you, Amish. We don't need to hear any more about that Jordan catch.
Yeah, fair enough.
So look, here's my thing on Sky, right? I thought from the first few games, it was pretty apparent that he probably wasn't in the selection for the World Cup. With them refusing to play him for the first few games, I was pretty convinced that I don't think this guy is in the plans to go to the World Cup. And I think he's played himself into the 15 for sure that are going to the 100%. World Cup now. And it most likely looks like he will probably bat 3 with Gawley opening alongside Rohit Sharma. Who knows? Jin, what did you make of Sky?
I actually think that might have helped him because his name has been around for the last year, 2 years, right? And he's been unlucky not being selected. He then wasn't given a go first 3 games. He got dropped after, not having a bat. So I think when he came out to bat, he knew he has to deliver, or he treated that as his last ever game, although it was his first hit for India. And,
fearless.
Yeah, exactly. And I think management have probably realized that when you've got people like Rohit and Kohli, right, you don't need another guy scoring 70 off, 50 balls or 45 balls. You need someone to come in, score 30 off 15 balls, 30 off 10 balls, right? And I think he's realized that. And the more he does it, the better for India. The second player, Ishan Kishan, I was very excited by him. However, I reckon this India World Cup is a World Cup too soon for him. I think Kohli mentioned yesterday in the interview as well that he's really excited about Sky. Ishan he mentioned, but I don't think Ishan will quite fit in the plans at the moment. I mean, he got dropped by Stokes. If he didn't get dropped, he wouldn't have scored that 50. So I think with Ishan Kishan, maybe Australia next year, he's young as well. So, you can't really fit him in. But Sky definitely.
Would you take Ishan Kishan to the World Cup? Is he in your squad?
Is he in my squad? For me, it's Ishan Kishan, KL. Because you have to remember Jaddu's coming back, right?
Yeah.
So you've got how many of these players can you fit into your 15?
Well, I tell you what, guys. Well, let's pause this debate for a minute about this because it's time for the Bharat Army drinking game. Because we've just had our first mention of Ravi Shastri in the comments, and we've got a question come through for us from Priya saying, "Do you think Ravi Shastri's role needs praising?" So let's all take a swig because we've had our first mention.
100%. Ravi Shastri is a legend of Indian cricket, right? And I just really hope that he gets a trophy, or 2 trophies this year. So my friends on the Bharat Army WhatsApp forum can say, you know what, he is amazing. That's what I'm looking forward to.
One thing with Shastri is that I think we've not. In the past, in the last 2 years that we've had the cycle of the World Test Championship, it's been very hard to see the results of his work because a lot of it is behind the scenes. But now, because the youngsters are coming out and they're saying, look, we've been pushed, we've been backed, we've been given so much confidence to go and give our best performances, the likes of a Shardul at the Gabba with Washi, for example, the fearless attitude, that clearly comes from somewhere. And anybody who knows Shastri, who's kind of seen him on any interviews over the years, will tell you that he is that kind of guy. So I think as hard as it has been for me in the past to certainly give praise and credit, I certainly think he deserves a lot of that. And I think him and Virat clearly are a match that works very well, that complements each other very well, and that enables one to prepare the team very well, and then the other to take that team onto the field with that preparation and to achieve amazing things. So absolute stellar from VK and Shastri.
Yeah, I think
go on, Amish.
No, Rav, you mentioned about the results from the work that he's been put in the last 6 months is when it's been evident that you can't win the series that we've won by coming behind overnight. That takes time to build up. And for the young and fearless guys to come in and back themselves, and come on, like us winning at the Gabba, like things like that don't happen often. And you can't, with the teams that we had, injuries we had, all the circumstances, like that's definitely from Cody and Shastri, man. Credit to them.
I think another thing that's important is that it would have been very easy to see him as a bit of a relic coach. And I think a lot of us saw him as a bit of a relic coach. Yeah. Perception, maybe, but it took the team a long time to turn that around. And you know what? We've seen it. It's a long-term investment, and 2020 and 2021 has been brilliant. But look, it wasn't easy to get here. 2018 was very difficult as a touring year. So, you just we had to keep the faith, keep the patience, because long-term investments take time, and that's what it was.
Well, we just had some comments coming in on the previous discussion we were having about Ishan Kishan. So Varun says, I feel like the time is right to prove his worth in the Indian team. We have seen it for 2 years and we can't waste talent. Sunny has also said that Ishan is young, but he's a left-hander, which is a rarity for the moment, and he has flair. So he will make the cut, Sunny believes.
I agree with everyone, right? However, we need to remind people that only 11 players can play for India. Out of them 11 players, only 6 or 7 can be batsmen, right? So there's no disagreement that Ishan isn't great, Sky isn't great, Rahul isn't great, Kohli ain't great. The issue is, where do you fit all these people, right? Mm-hmm. And that's for me, more than India's competition being England, West Indies, etc. I think India's biggest challenge or team management is to pick the right 11 and the right 6 or 7 batters in the right position. I think that is, look, on this forum, on this chat, no one's going to agree on who the best 6 batsmen are. You go to any other country, right? They'll agree on 5 or 6 batsmen. Yeah, maybe they'll have a disagreement on 1. We're going to have disagreements on 4, 5. And mark my words, after the IPL, there'll be 2 or 3 more batsmen, right, that will throw their names in the hat. So that's, for me, is the biggest challenge for India.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think we disagree? I think it's because it's taken us until now to find this brand of cricket that we want to play, where we bring IPL superstars in, Mumbai Indians, all of that. If that's taken enough time, then that's why it's hard to agree. Whereas other teams obviously have built a brand over more time, 3, 4, 5 years. They don't have that uncertainty. So that's what it's all about, in my opinion.
I don't think India have changed their brand of cricket.
No, they have. The 3 games they won, they had. Definitely.
Big time.
You guys are saying that because someone fired. Someone did well in those games. Like, it's more about us playing to our ability as opposed to changing our plan. India are never going to be the team with Butler going out there and smashing the ball all out. We've got too many batsmen as opposed to pure IPL hitters, or whatever you want to call it. I personally don't think that. Look, even in the games we won, it was the likes of Kohli and Rohit Sharma and Ishan Kishan getting the 50. Ishan Kishan, fair enough, but Kohli and Rohit Sharma, it's not like they're playing a different brand of cricket. But they're still playing cricketing shots with that same brand of cricket. They're just backing their ability.
Agreed, but the difference between Rohit Sharma yesterday and the Rohit Sharma that you mentioned over the course of 70 matches, averaging a 30 at a strike rate of 130, was that mindset change. Yesterday,
bro, in the fourth 2020 here at 6 first ball, that mindset was still there.
No, that was a mindset change from the third one day international. Rohit Sharma hardly
didn't play in the first 2.
From the third and the 3 or 4 years prior to that, right? Yesterday he was striking at 200. He hit Stokes for a 6 and a 4 and still went for another shot. which is not the Rohit Sharma that them stats that you highlighted suggest. So that is a definite mindset change. And Kohli's been going on about it as well, right?
But bro, you know the shots that Rohit Sharma played yesterday? They were balls to be hit. They were bowling short, he was putting it away. They were bowling half volleys, he was smashing them down the ground. I don't think he played like the ball was there to be hit and he executed that shot. So hence why his strike rate was a lot higher, which in the previous games, we lost a wicket early on. Like in all of our games, either we lost a wicket under 10, I think one of them it was 20 odd, and that's the fourth 2020 where go on.
I was going to make one point. I thought Rohit, if you look yesterday at his approach to Mark Wood and Archer versus the other two games, there was a clear difference. And Mark Wood didn't bowl badly yesterday.
No,
Mark Wood bowled in the channel and he bowled 145 clicks at least, right? So when he was being driven down the ground, because that was the same ball that Archer, I believe, got caught and bowled off Rohit the game before, right in front of him. But the difference was Rohit wasn't actually really following through with that much in those games. This one, I really felt that the full swing of the ball, he was holding his shape, and even the bat swing, it just felt like the hands through the ball through him and VK was much faster. England commentary team were talking a lot about fast hands. And that's what it's all about, T20 cricket, getting your hands through the ball so you can get that elevation. And that was the big difference. Before, I mean, let's be fair. I'm not making this about KL again, but if you got openers missing leg glances, then that's not about being bowled this, that, and the other. That's just about missing bread and butter shots.
When someone like Robert Key at the end of a show says India wasted 3 overs up front, they weren't even interested in hitting them balls. They were dead batting it, right?
That's a clear... Robert Key, bro. You definitely send him over some bank transfer check or something. I know there's something going on. But bro, I agree, but that is down to KL being out of form and he's playing with so many nerves. It's that mental game, like you said, but he's not playing
Amish, can I ask you something? Amish, can I ask you something, right? There's a thought I've been having about KL Rahul, which I feel inclined to share now. That T20 100 he hit at, was it Manchester? I'm pretty sure it was Manchester, where he just went berserk and started smashing the England batsmen to all parts, right? Is that innings an exception or is it the rule? Because I sometimes think about KL Rahul that we blind ourselves a little bit with that innings, thinking, oh my God, he's capable of that. But was that like a one-off innings, or is it something that like he's capable of doing a little bit more often than not? I mean, I know he's like ranked the number 3 T20 batsman in the world, but I mean, looking back at the last IPL for Kings 11 Punjab as well, where he had the lowest strike rate out of all of the Orange Cap winners.
Then again, he was batting with Agarwal, who was teeing off. So you can do that depending on who your partner is. But he's, because Rav, yesterday you mentioned about comparing Hardik Pandya's strike rate, etc. When you look at the big innings that KL has played, they've all been at the 180 to 220 strike rate. So it's not a case that 100, as you mentioned, was a one-off, because he's done that on a few occasions where, just like Rohit Sharma, when he's in, he will convert and he will up the ante. I'm not saying he will do that like getting 20, 25 and over, but like I think it is about the partnership, who you're batting with on the other end, and right now, I don't think we can. This series cannot be used as a reflection to judge KL as a player, because this series stands out as an anomaly.
Mm-hmm. The only problem is you're 6 months out from a World Cup. That's the only issue with this.
100%. That I absolutely agree with.
I agree with you, but who are you dropping? That's ultimately comes down to that, right? To fit KL in.
Well, we are going to talk about our 11s later on and see how we can try and formulate these guys into a winning 11 for the World Cup. We hope. We have talked about our batting a fair amount, but we've got another question coming from Pranay saying, I think we don't have an issue in our batting department. We need to look at bowling. Chahar, and other spinners were expensive, and at points in the last game, struggling. I think we've actually got a bit of a spinner problem. I think there's a bit of an issue now with the spinners that we're looking at. Obviously, we're hoping that Jadeja comes back into the team at some point and can, bring us his strengths. But we had Washington Sundar, who pretty much I think is going to be a frontline spinner now. in the T20 World Cup. So, Rav, what do you think about India and this next generation of spinners? Because we look like we're just struggling to find some quality.
Yeah, it is a little bit concerning given that T20 cricket at both franchise level and international level, you've seen a huge renaissance of leg spin. And I think that going into the series and going into a World Cup, I think everybody thought that Yuzvendra Chahal would be the #1 choice of spinner for India going forward. Kuldeep, so much has been written and he's clearly nowhere near selection, so it's not even really worth talking about him. But there is a bit of an issue there because I felt that actually after the 2018 tour of England, I think Chahal's actually progressively been getting worse. And I'm not going to include IPL form in that again because it's the same thing that seems to happen. It's not as, I mean, it's worse with him than with KL because KL's got a really good international record. Chahal's record is progressively getting worse. He seems to be getting taken down with regularity. And this series, I genuinely don't think India would have won the series had he played the 4th and 5th games. I thought Rahul Chahar is clearly nowhere near the finished article. But the good thing was, if you look at where it seems leg spin is these days, it's about not these kind of loopy kind of lollipops that Chahal bowls, but Rahul Chahar was bowling fast into the pitch, kind of the Rashid Khan mold that clear, within the stumps, so you get a lot of LBWs and bowls. That is what it's all about, not kind of this flying tosses outside off stump where you get the amount of leverage that they were getting into their shots because of what he was doing, and that for me is a big problem because Virat's gone long on him for a long time in terms of he's my guy, and that's obviously a franchise thing as well.
What mental strength by Chahar yesterday, right? 2 overs for 27, right? That third over went for 7 runs. That allowed VK to bring in Bhuvi, and we had a wicket and another low-scoring over. Now, if that was Chahal third over, I think that's going for 12, 15 runs again.
The interesting thing is, though, is that I think because of T20 and because of all the stats behind it and everything, everyone thinks, oh, you need certain types of bowlers. So you need a leg spinner. You need this, you need that. And I actually think with what Ashwin said, and we need to probably talk about this as well, is can you not go back to finger spinners? Because really, India now have that middle order of batting that could probably chase down some pretty meaty scores. So is it not a case of if Ashwin had a great IPL, I think somebody's put it in one of the comments.
I was just going to say that. Would you play Ashwin ahead of Washi? And do you know, if you look at the 2020 stats, right, Ashwin as a spinner has a economy rate of less than 7 and almost the same amount of wickets as Chahal. Right. So he's a wicket the only issue is his fielding, but then Chahal's not the best fielder either, right?
Bro, and he can bat, and he can't bat, Chahal, as well.
Yeah. So. Rav, like people are talking about variation. I'll be honest, in 2020, I don't care about variation as much as I care about having my best 11 out there. I don't think Chahal is close, especially in the last few years. Before, he used to be a wicket-taking bowler. Now he's not taking as many wickets, and he's going for 9, 10 and over comfortably. So and Jadeja's come back into the mix, I would have Sundar or Ravi Ashwin. To be honest, I wouldn't. If Ashwin has a great IPL, I would definitely take him because in 2020, I think there is a lot about calculation and risk taking, and Ravi Ashwin's brain will take a lot of stress off Kohli. Like he'll set his own fields, he'll come up with plans, and like Jin said, his economy rate is under 7, which is lower than Jadeja's. And if you've got 2 spinners keeping it tight for 8 overs, then you can have a Pandya or a Thakur come in and wicket-taking bowlers and break partnerships because batsmen are going to try and hit him to, up the run rate. Yeah,
they were going to look at obviously Varun Chakravarti, but he failed the fitness test, I believe, didn't he? So
he was injured or failed the fitness test, something like that.
Yeah. So who knows if he has a great IPL? Maybe there's some T20s in with New Zealand and South Africa after the England tour. So maybe they'll have another look. It might be too late by then, really.
But here's my thing, though. Here's my thing. Post the Champions Trophy 2017 final, I think that management took a clear decision to say, look, Jadeja and Ashwin are the past, and now we must build towards the future. And they started blooding in Kuldeep and Chahal and said that these two are going to be our spin partnership for the foreseeable future. if we're sitting in the year 2021, if after that final in 2017, you told us that in 2021 at a T20 World Cup, we would be talking about Ashwin and Jadeja again back into the team, I'm just not sure about what it says about the new generation of Indian spinners that we're going back to Ashwin and Jadeja. Jadeja obviously is in the team for regardless.
Kuldeep Yadav is the issue here, right? Because he's still young. I think he's 26 years old. When he came, 2018-19, he was on fire. Like, I think, he took 6 wickets in Trent Bridge. England couldn't read him, but then he went downhill, and that's basically forced the options to go back to Jadeja, and then obviously Washi was the kind of the spinner that added batting depth, the power play bowler. So yeah, definitely lots of issues.
But if we talk about Jadeja and Ashwin, right? Jadeja has worked himself back into the team, one as a 3D gun player who can do everything, and his fielding is fantastic, which is crucial. And Ashwin is, if I'm honest, in the form of his life. And if he has a great IPL, I don't think that we should put it past. I would rather have someone. I wouldn't want to take someone to a World Cup of giving them a chance and trying. The future is in 6 months. So I'm not thinking that if we have Ashwin and Jadeja now, they're going to be there for 5 years' time. I'm thinking, what's our best 11 to win us the World Cup? And I think that could be. I think Ashwin could have a part to play. I'd like to see how he performs in the IPL. He's definitely got more of a part than Chahal.
The good thing is Ashwin has put his name out there. He's gone to the media. He said
he wants it.
He wants it, and it forced VK to say at the start of the series that, look, Washington's doing well. So at the moment, however, again, I agree with you. He has a good IPL. You get 16, 17 wickets for Delhi at a decent economy rate.
So let's say if Ashwin doesn't make it, would you guys rather have Jadeja and Sundar or Jadeja and someone else? Do you care about
Akshay Patel as well? Akshay Patel might have a part to play, because obviously T20, I don't think he was hit for many sixes at all in the IPL last year, and he got quite a few runs. So he's another option as well.
I think the IPL might be the gun tournament for these spinners. I think any spinner that has a impressive IPL has a strong chance to get that second spinner's role. So I'm assuming Jadeja will be. The only concern with Jadeja is, right, he's been excellent for India in Test cricket and one-day international cricket, but his last IPL, albeit in a weak Chennai team in Dubai, was very poor with the ball. Now, whether he had a niggle or something, I don't know. So again, I think they'll probably monitor his bowling fitness in IPL this time around.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, let's talk about the squads and how we think that they're all gonna line up and stuff, and which players we think are going to be in and out of the squad. Are we all feeling like it's going to be Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli to open with Surya, Kumar, Yadav at 3?
Yeah, for me, that's what I'm doing all day long.
Yeah, I mean, when the captain says that I'm going to open for RCB, right? He cannot openly come and say, I'm going to open for India, because that's a decision taken by selectors and management. But as captain of RCB, he's done that. And you can't really see him, playing 18 matches or whatever it is as an opener and then coming back at number 3. So that probably is the top 3.
Yep, fair enough. Amish, your thoughts?
Yeah. To be honest, either way, we're indifferent about them two being in the team, and I think them being at the top of the order does create a bit more flexibility in the middle order, having those floaters where you can chop and change depending on the match situation. So I'm not against it. Okay,
cool. So if we're looking at the middle order again, then Amish, I want to stick with you, because you're trying to make the case for maybe thinking that Rishabh Pant, his place might not be as guaranteed as people think it is.
Yeah, to be honest. Wait, are we looking at the 11 or the 15? Because with the 11,
let's talk about the 11 for now. Yeah, let's talk about the 11 for now, and then we'll kind of discuss the 15. But yeah, let's stick with the 11 for now.
So I'd say IR for me is 100% in. That middle order, I'm not thinking about 3, 4, 5. I think IR is 100% in. Sky cemented his place.
But we've got him as 3, right?
He's
so
3.
We go 4.
Yes, sir.
3, I are 4.
Yeah.
And if I think there's still a bit of a question mark for me with Bunt. I'm not saying he's definitely coming like in the squad. I just don't know if Ishan Kishan and KL Rahul have a brilliant IPL. I think I would consider playing them ahead of Bunt, because I'm not sure what Bunt's role is right now, and has he done enough for us to not play others who are performing? And once again, this has a big emphasis on KL finding form.
I think that seems to be the only debating batting spot. Ishan Kishan, KL Rahul, or Rishabh Pant. I personally think they're all good enough batting-wise. Ishan Kishan, I don't think at the moment they will risk as the wicket-keeper for India. So based on that fact, I reckon it's Pant versus KL, because KL has kept wicket for India.
Are we really going to leave him out of another ICC tournament and then bring him in a little bit later when we realise
No,
we'll make a mistake?
I am saying he makes a squad, but actually, look, 3 months ago, after the India-Australia 2020s, no one was mentioning Bunt being our keeper. Everyone was talking about KL and even saying that he could be our wicket-keeper, batsman, etc., etc. Bunt hasn't done nothing to change that. So how has he cemented his place without doing anything fantastic on the pitch for us to for him to solidify his spot?
Well, I mean, that's still something we're going to debate.
He's had a winter of excellence where he's literally, just smashed Australia in Australia. He's played
and England.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, it's Test match cricket. However, if someone can do that on day 5 on a wearing a Test wicket, what can they do?
So okay. If that's the energy, then Ashwin should also be in, based on what he's done in Test matches against Australia, against England.
The skipper's come out and said he already has a player that does what Ashwin does in Washington Sundar. He's done nothing. That's what Virat Kohli said, right? Not me. Yeah. But look, I'm for Ashwin. I think that's going to be an IPL call. If Ashwin outbowls Washington Sundar, then especially if you don't need India to bat as deep, right? Let's put it this way: Ashwin and Washington, they're not really going to win you 2020s with the bat if the other 7 batsmen haven't been able to.
But also, Washi's not really a middle overs kind of bowler like Ashwin would be, right? Washi's going to bowl in the power plays. So I would argue, actually, for the outside the power plays, I think a middle overs of Shardul, Hardik, and Ashwin is a very good restrictive middle phase of bowling potentially. I think otherwise
that means you've left. If you've got Thakur in your team, that means you've left out one of the other strike bowlers. Because otherwise
Natarajan is the one that probably, I know we haven't spoken bowlers yet, but he's the one that I think he probably needs to have a good tournament. I think if he was to have a poor IPL, people would he may just fall away, not because he's not a great prospect bowler with great Yorkers, because he clearly is. But when you're someone who's literally just come into the side, it doesn't take much to kind of go out of the side, even though you've not really done anything, because the bar is so high with everyone's performance that all it takes is others to go really high, and then suddenly you're under pressure.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I feel like that's the kind of situation that IR keeps finding himself in. He's not done anything wrong, and he's actually played well, but because of others, we're putting a question mark next to his name, which I don't think is at all reasonable.
For me, this series has sealed his place. He's played 2 innings of contrasting styles, adapted to the situation, right? You can't drop him. Undroppable.
So let me ask you guys. Let me ask you guys one question, because there's one player who I still have a little bit of a question mark over my head with, and that's Shardul Thakur, because you kind of think that he probably won't get into the 11, but He's been pretty good throughout this
leading
England
wicket
series.
taker. The leading wicket taker.
Indeed, yeah. Has he played himself into a conversation where he might be starting?
I'd be surprised if he starts.
If Johal plays, then I don't think we can afford to have Thakur as well. We need to have
too expensive.
We need to have someone to keep the economy rate down and therefore bring out the best of Thakur. So let them try and hit him, and he'll create opportunities for us to take a few wickets. So if he's going at 9 and over, but taking 3 wickets, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I would probably say that would be at the expense of Natu.
Yeah, because currently
Shami.
You're going to have Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Bumrah as your 2 seamers. Yeah. You're going to have Hardik as your 3rd seamer, or potentially 4th seamer. You then have Jaddu as your spinner, right? So then it's, are you going to play another? I mean, Thakur can get in if you only play 1 spinner. Yeah. But are you going to play 1 spinner?
Well, it's October. It's October, and it's going to be due on these grounds. And I think if you looked at in October, wasn't it the last one was played similar time? Was it 2016? It might have been in March. March, which completely different conditions, completely different. So I would imagine that there may be some more pace bowlers for an October edition rather than a March edition.
Because that's what England did, right? If you look, England last 5 games, they went 1 spinner and heavy
pace through the middle.
So again, it goes back to what Amish was saying earlier. You know, you'd rather play 2 finger spinners than play a wrist spinner for the sake of it. You can then further that argument down to say, would you play a pace bowler instead of a second finger spinner for the sake of it? So, yeah.
And actually, these cutters that he bowls to left-handers, they're so hard to hit. Like, the ball just dies. You can't hit that for 6. So I think that's a massive weapon. And actually, one thing I was saying before we started this show was, having watched the highlights yesterday, he's got 3 different slower balls. He's got a knucker ball, he's got a leg cutter, and then he's got an off cutter. That is serious variation that is very, very hard to pick. So I would be very mindful of dropping a player with that much versatility.
Guys, what about Shami?
What's the best thing he's got? Yeah, he's got confidence. Shardul Thakur he backs himself. Yeah. And VK said yesterday that even if we're in trouble with the bat, this guy will stand up and say, I'm going to get them runs for you. Right?
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely.
If you told me that about Thakur 3 months ago, I would have laughed in your face. I'm like, seriously, this guy that gets tonked all over the place in IPL, right? Amazing turnaround.
So, guys, if we just go through the order again, right? Sharma, Kohli, Sky, Iyer, Bunt/KL, Pandya. On the assumption we're going with 5 batsmen and Pandya as well, 6th bowler. Jaddu. Yeah. Maybe another spinner or Shardul Thakur. I'm not sure. And Bhuvi, Jasprit. Do we have Shami? Do we have Thakur? Do we have a spinner? Like,
I think it depends who you're playing. I think it depends who you're playing. Shami probably won't make it, but it's Natarajan, isn't it? Natarajan, Bumrah, and Bhuvi will probably be the fast bowlers, I would have thought, possibly.
But I think you hit the nail on the head. It depends who you're playing. If you're playing, someone like a Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, you might go with seam, right, as opposed to spin. If you go against some of, like Australia, for example, I'm definitely playing 2 spinners because they commit suicide against spinners in 2020. And it depends on the grounds as well. Smaller grounds, you might be inclined to play seamers, right, rather than spinners. So again, it depends on that.
So that 5th bowler spot, are you saying it's down to Thakur, Sundar, Jahar? Jahar's out, in my opinion. Well, you're saying that's going to be down to the pitch and who we're playing.
Do you know the interesting point is about Jahar is, for us guys, he's out. He's not a certainty. But if you heard Dinesh Karthik yesterday, he was he was certain, right, that he's going to be the first spinner in that 11.
Yeah.
So he must be regarded very, very highly within the circles.
In my squad, my team or squad, he would not make it. I think there's other better options available than Chahal.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, that brings us to the last question, really, in lineup of the kind of people that we think are going to make it into this team. The last question really is that, do we have a team that are good enough to win the World Cup, to win an ICC tournament, something that we haven't done since 2013 and something that we're all craving so badly? Obviously, we beat England in this series 3-2. With bowlers like Shardul Thakur, who probably won't even be playing in the main 11. So the question really is that, can this team win an ICC tournament, which of course is very different to playing in a series? Amish, what do you think?
So, do I think our squad is good enough? Yes. Do I think we know our best 11 to win the tournament? Unfortunately, no. And is there enough time for us to work out our best 11? I'm not sure. Like, I hope that there's talk of a few fixtures being arranged after the test, which I hope does happen, because then you can try out some of the players that are have a few question marks. But
yeah,
I don't think we're in a settled state, and I think going into that World Cup, you need to be in a lot. There's too many question marks right now. We're not close enough to knowing our best 9 or 10, let alone 11.
Fair enough. Rav, what do you think?
I slightly disagree with that. I think that we have learned a lot from this series, and I think we've learned about players that can handle the pressure and can handle certain challenges. So, for example, who can take on spin bowling in the middle overs when we need to hit boundaries rather than just work it around. So I thought Sky did a great job of doing that yesterday, for example. So he's ticked that box. Because what we're going to face is we're going to face different challenges at different stages of bowling. I'm not too concerned about. I think our bowling is at home will tend to do the job. It's more about the construction of batting so that we get the totals that I think we deserve and the totals that I think we should get. And that is only, I think we've learned a lot about composition of how many anchors you need. I think we've learned a lot about the bringing in players you can hit at 150 plus in this format, and players you can hit all around the wicket. So again, not to go too much about Sky, but to be able to hit when fine legs up and third man's up, to be able to be hitting either side of those boundaries and hitting boundaries is massive. So I think we've learned a lot about 360 batting options as well. I think we've got a team that can win. I think we've got a core of about 7 to 8 players that will probably play every game, and then there'll be some options based on the pitch, based on the opposition. But in general, one thing I'll also say is I think Virat's captaincy really was good in this series as well. I think he tried out a lot of good things. So yeah, I think that's an interesting one, because whenever he went off the field, we seemed to be, taking lots of wickets. But one thing I'll say is I'm really glad that he seems to want to utilize Rohit in this way as well, and say, you know what, if I'm going to go off, go and captain. We're in this together. You're vice captain, I'm captain, and actually that dynamic when they were batting together as well yesterday. They really seem to be enjoying each other's batting, and when Rohit was hitting a 6 into the stands, Virat was really excited, and that hopefully that can breed off into the rest of the team, and they can see that if we get a really good start from our gun players, then we can play in that manner as well. And I think that's the biggest, along with Sky, is this Rohit and VK tag team. That's what it needs to be, because you've got one guy who's mastered franchise cricket and who clearly has a lot of experience, and he can be used in a really proactive way. So I'm glad that that's happened, and I think we've got a team to win.
Well, I think another great positive to come out of the tournament is VK's batting. It was the series. It was absolutely brilliant. The way he can manipulate the field. It's not. I think it was in the first or second 2020. The way he just maneuvered like the ball around and bisected the field. It was incredible to watch, man. That was a real positive, and I think that's going to be a big factor of how we do in the World Cup. Man.
Those people that have been telling me Butler is the best white ball batsman, they need to watch Kohli. And if they don't change their mind, my wife's an optician, right? She can sort out an eye test for them.
Yeah, like he's been a joy to watch, man. And like Rav, you were saying about how he was enjoying like celebrating the success of Rohit Sharma. I think even when he was batting with Sky, the passion he had for Sky doing well was second to none, man. It was really good to see that fire and that.
Absolutely. And if you said to us before the series that we're gonna England are going to get to practice 5 games where the final is going to be played. They would go 2-1 up. We've got all these players missing yet again. There's no fan pressure at all. Not 132,000 that stadium holds. That alone would win all those tosses. India they learnt so much, and I think England have come away with more questions, certainly, than we have, as regards a few of their, they've been talking about how do they get people like Billings in. So I think India have had a really good tournament, and I think they go into this with a lot of new momentum and a brand new blueprint, which is the most exciting thing.
Well, yes, and with that, our time is up. We'll all keep our fingers crossed for the T20 World Cup later on this year. Let us know what you think. Drop us a line at the Bharat Army on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you like. And with that, fingers crossed, everybody, we will be lifting the World T20 later on in the year. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you on the next podcast. Jai Hind.
All right.